Just over a year ago, I hosted the very first Build With Me Live, which is a live online event where I build a project and I take you with me and show you step by step, and you can build the project live as well. And that was so much fun. We had about 50 people join in, and there were a couple people that actually finished building the project as I was building it as well. And this is what we built. We built a modern planter. And of course, I haven't even applied the finish to this in almost over a year now. But in case you missed it, that's totally okay, because today I'm going to walk you through step by step how to build this planter. And if you would like to join the next Build With Me live session, definitely get on my email list. I will add a link to that in the description. I am definitely going to be holding a couple more this year itself because it was so much fun. So now let's get to building this planter. So this is what I want it to look like. And as always, I have the detailed step-by-step plans, schematics, and cut list for you. So a link to that is in the description as well. Now, for building this planter, we are going to be using 2x2 boards, which I have right here, and a 1x2 and a 1x6 board. But before we get started, if you are new here, I am Anika, and I am here to demystify DIY and inspire and empower you to build all of the things. I have a ton of tool tutorials, project ideas, and courses to help you in your journey. So definitely follow along and take a look at the description for all of the resources. Now let's go make the cuts. But before I can make any cuts, it's time to set up the miter saw. Now, I am showing you this setup part, which I normally don't, because I want you to know that you don't really need an entire workshop to make the projects. I still cut all of my boards in the driveway, and that's something you would have noticed if you watched any of my other videos. I do have some space in my garage, but I don't usually run my saws inside because of all the dust it creates, because we've got the laundry in there, we've got some more storage, and the kids' toys and bikes and everything. So I do set up everything in the driveway, and that does take a lot of time, and it is weather dependent. But I thought I would put this out there because I really want you to see all the realities that go in behind every project. I am using a miter saw to make all of these cuts, but if you have just a circular saw, you can easily use that to make the cuts as well. I have a detailed tutorial on how to use a miter saw and how to use a circular saw linked in the description below. Also, the details of the cut list and the dimensions are all in the plan, which is also available in the description. Okay, so I have all the cuts here. We've got 4 leg pieces of 2x2s. I've got the 4 top and bottom trim pieces, the 1x2s. And then I have 3 1x6 boards that are going to be making the long sides and the bottom. And then we've got these 2 small 1x6 boards that are going to go on the front and back. Now the next step is to make the pocket holes. Now in this project there are quite a few pocket holes, which is probably the only way that I could figure out how to make the entire design work. So we are going to be making pocket holes on the pretty much all the sides of the box, and then we have pocket holes on 2 of these 1x2s. The location of the pocket holes are all shown in the plans, which are linked in the description below. So let's get started with making the pocket holes. I am using the Craig 720 to make the pocket holes, but you can use any pocket hole jig to make the pocket holes. Now, because we are making pocket holes in 3/4 inch material, and it's going to be joining to either 3/4 inch material or 1.5 inch material, we are going to set the jig height, which in the 720 is automatic, but if it's any other pocket hole jig, you want to set it to 3/4 of an inch. And also the depth collar is set to 3/4 of an inch. And then I just went ahead and made all of the pocket holes. The front and the back and the 2 sides have pocket holes on both ends, and the bottom has pocket holes pretty much all around. Okay, all the pocket holes are done, but I wanted to quickly point out these small pieces of the 1x6. Now, essentially they are a square because they're 5.5 by 5.5 inch. So if you are going to be painting your project, it really doesn't matter which side or which direction you make the pocket holes in. But if you are going to be staining the project like me, you want to really have that grain go in the same direction all around the planter. So you want to make sure that you make the pocket holes in the direction of the grain. So definitely pay attention to that. Now the next step before we start assembling is to sand the boards. Now I am using select pine boards, so they're already in a pretty great condition. They're nice and smooth and they don't really have any defects, but I am still going to give them a once over with a 220 grit because that will just kind of remove that top layer and sort of freshen up the wood. And also there's like black marks on it, some pencil marks, some black scuffs, etc. It'll take care of all of that. And then we'll have a nice fresh surface to stain. So before we build, we always want to sand. My top tip for getting the most uniform sanding and efficient sanding is to use a pencil scribble on the surface and then just sand it until all of that pencil mark is gone. This makes sure that you don't over sand in spots and also that you're just sanding enough and not spending too much time sanding your boards. The 2x2 leg pieces are also going to have their ends visible in the finished project, so I made sure to sand those ends as well. Now it's time to assemble. So first up, I'm going to build the sides of the planter, which starts by attaching the 1x2 to the 2x2 boards using pocket hole screws. Of course, the right angle clamp is my best friend here, and I used 1¼ inch pocket hole screws to attach. Once this is attached, I can add in the side of the planter and attach that using pocket hole screws to the leg as well as to the bottom. Of course, I had to make sure that everything was aligned, and in the case where it's not, a mallet is my best friend. Of course, I had to make sure to wipe away all the wood glue because that is going to interfere with the stain. And then I attached the other leg on the other side, added a few more pocket hole screws from the 1x2 into the 2x2s, and that is one of the sides of the planter. Of course, I repeated that and built the second side as well. Now it's time to put it all together and build the box. So I'm going to start by attaching one of the long sides to one of the ends that I just built. Now this one, the pocket holes are going to face inside, and I have to be really careful on the alignment. And then I clamped it using an F-style clamp because none of my correct clamps are going to work in this case. And then I added the pocket hole screws. Now it's time for the bottom of the planter box. And this one I attached to the end with pocket hole screws, and also I attached to the side. And of course, this bottom has a lot of pocket hole screws, but they're all going to be hidden, so it's really no big deal. Now for the final side, it is again attached using wood glue and pocket hole screws. I also made sure to add some pocket hole screws from the bottom into this side. And now that I have the three sides of the planter box, I can bring in the other end and attach using pocket hole screws. I was able to easily get my drill inside to attach, but if you feel like it's too tight for you to get your drill inside, you can definitely use a right angle attachment for the drill. I added all the remaining pocket hole screws, and that is the box. Now there's one last thing remaining, which is the 1x2 that goes on the top that acts as a trim. Now you can use a nail gun and attach these, but I did not want the nails to be showing on the top, so all I'm going to do is glue it down and clamp it and leave it overnight to dry. I am going to start staining. I already applied the pre-stain conditioner and it has dried up. It's time to stain. So for this, I'm actually using a semi-transparent stain. This is actually a deck stain, so it's naturally waterproofing already. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to do this in brown, and then I'm going to tape this off, and then we're going to do this in black. Now the reason I'm doing the brown bit first is because then the black can just go over it. So It's a lot easier to just start with the brown, light brown, and then go darker. Okay, so now that this is stained, and you can see I didn't really pay a lot of attention to making sure that I only stay on this. So there's some spillovers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply black paint. This is trim paint. So it's waterproof and easy to clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tape this whole thing off and paint it. And you just have to be a little careful painting things, or you can just tape it off really, really well. Or you can be lazy like me and carefully paint in the edges. And here it is. It makes a beautiful little modern centerpiece or planter. Now I am just going to be adding some pots into this, but if you wanted to plant directly into this planter, you can make some drainage holes and add some landscape fabric inside and plant into it. The detailed plans with the cut list, the dimensions, and the step-by-step schematics are linked in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time with another fun project.